Just an absolutely pathetic effort by your Sacramento Kings. This is why when we talk about the play-in for this team and we ask, can they get to the playoffs? Could they win 2 games in the play-in? It's the exact reason why we can't say they can. Double negative, my bad. Even I'm not bringing it tonight on the pregame show. I'm befuddled by the effort, the lack of attention to detail, just again, pathetic is the only word that comes to mind right now to explain what you just saw from this team. This is not about what the Magic did tonight. This is about what the Kings did not do. The Sacramento Kings that beat the Portland Trailblazers just 2 nights ago are not the same Sacramento Kings that got on that chartered plane and landed in Orlando. And it was across the board. We can point to the turnovers by Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, 8 of them between the 2 players at halftime. You were upside down with your assist to turnover ratio. You had 11 turnovers to 6 assists in the first half. Not the way you want to start a road trip. Not the way you want to start a road trip whatsoever. Look, I'm going to lay it out for you guys. There is not much to take from this game. There's not. You can talk about Keon getting the start. Keon struggled. He had 4 fouls. Doug never went back to him. A positive from tonight, Coach Christie put the starters on the bench earlier than normal. You got some run from some guys that usually do not get run. But you may have lost Devin Carter. We don't know. He went to the locker room late in the second quarter. Looked like a non-contact injury from my perspective. So we will see. It's on his right shoulder, which is the opposite shoulder of the surgically repaired shoulder this past summer. So what do you want to talk about? Kings lose 121-91. They give up 18 3-pointers to the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. You want to see why they gave up 18 3-pointers to the worst shooting team in the league? Because when you defend the 3 ball like that, most NBA players, whether your percentage is in the low 20s or the high 40s, are going to make that shot. That's what the 3-point defense looked like tonight. I've got other examples that we can put up, but in the meantime, I want to hear from you. Get your comments in here, get your chats in here. We can talk about this one. The Kings move on to Indiana on Monday. They'll be taken off from Orlando later tonight to Grant has flu-like symptoms. No, Grant does not have flu-like symptoms. He is good. In fact, there's no need for Grant. There's almost no need for me to break this thing down for you. Again, this team came out with some effort. I'll give them the E word in the beginning. They got some good looks. The Kings did. They weren't able to knock them down. Defensively, the Kings were absolutely lost. So now you go scoreboard watching. Dallas takes on Chicago. Red hot Chicago tonight, in a game that matters to both Orlando and the Kings. You were blown out by 30 points in nearly both meetings. Unreal. Again, your calls. Let's get them started. GP, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Ryno?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good, man. just about what you're talking about, man. I know you've heard it from me before, but this team can't defend the jump shot, whether it's the 2 point, whether it's the 3 point. But we've given up the most. Uh, I don't know how many career highs to dudes that just aren't even like notable guys that score as much as they do against the Kings. So I think it's time. This team gave it a run this season. Obviously, we have a few games left, but we need to look to, I think, bring in younger, hungrier guys, like especially people who are going to try on the defensive end. I don't know how that's going to happen with all of the, cap space being kind of locked up and not having picks, and it's like we don't have identity at this point. Um, I don't even know how much of a help a good do us because we're supposed to be a well offensive and offensive power team that's outscoring teams, but unfortunately, you see what we have here. Honestly, Keon looked better in the starting lineup than Monk. Um, that just goes to show you that hey, Monk maybe he might just thrive at a sixth man role than anything.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. Here's the thing, though, GP. I can't take anything from this game. Like,
No,
there's
no,
nothing I can. I
I'm
know
not
you're
even
talking about
talking
on a
about.
whole, like guys who
Yeah,
need to play
I'm not even
defense,
talking
but
about this team. Uh, if we're talking about this game, Ryno, if you've been following Orlando, I've been kind of following their up and down seasons. They've had injuries. They've gone through they've gone through a lot. Other than a coaching change, they've gone through a lot. But I just liked how like they play hard no matter what. No matter who's on the floor for Orlando, you always see them fighting. And I don't know whether that's young guys trying to prove themselves or even they bring in those athletic people that are eager to play defense. But Orlando is a good team in the East. I think they're contending for a spot, right? Is that right?
yeah, this game it's big to them. They're right in the mix of the play-in. They're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
move up. They're a game
and
behind Chicago in the loss column.
yeah, and a few games ago, I'm sure Laker fans remember they kicked their butts too. So they're missing. I think they're starting power forward or center as well. So and a few other injuries, but I just don't see the fight in this team right now. This team is set up for an offensive to be an offensive juggernaut, but I think that ship has sailed with Mike Brown and the type of play we had then. Um, and I think it's kind of unfair to Doug with these guys to, say like, hey, this was Doug's chance or Doug's go at it. But I think obviously he deserves a fresh slate, to say fresh season, with everything going, established at least, like a point guard being established, your six man being established, and so on. But yeah, man. These starters got to look at themselves in the mirror. There's no other way to go about this. Like you're getting your butt kicked, um, you know, by players that they weren't even supposed to be getting minutes right now. They're getting minutes because of injuries. They're hungry. So when you meet a team like that who has nothing to lose, which is how the Kings should be playing, but unfortunately they're not. So.
Yep.
But
Hey, I appreciate the call, GP. Thanks for kicking us off today.
no problem. I just hope we get some young talent in here, man, because it's pretty embarrassing losing to teams like that, and even a team like Chicago. I know they're like so thankful because now their ball movement is crisp, and they've been on a roll, and they're one of the faster teams now in the NBA. So at least
Yep.
over the last 10 or 12 games. So
Yep. They've
I,
won 8 of their last 2, 4 in a row. So they're playing well. Appreciate you, GP. Thank you so much.
all right.
Good job by GP kicking us off. You can call the show by hitting the link that is circulating in chat. You can also scan the QR code that is on the screen. Doug Christie had no fixes for the Kings tonight. In fact, any issue with the way Doug Christie coached this game, anything that stuck out to you? One thing I can tell you is I don't want to hear credit to Orlando. This was all about the Kings tonight. So again, no fixes for the Kings in the land of Disney, but I can tell you, New Works Plumbing has a fix for you anytime, anywhere. They will be there for you 24/7 around the clock. New Works was actually out at my house recently, did a really great job. Awesome people, know their stuff, and give them a call. We are so appreciative of them being a partial sponsor or a sponsor here on the post game show. You can give them a call at 916-713-1010 around the clock. You can get a hold of them. That is New Works Plumbing, sackserviceplumbing.com. New Works, they've got a fix for you. Again, no fix for the Kings. Anywhere in sight, can they figure it out before they move on to Indiana? Donald, what's up tonight? Donald, you there? All right, Donald, we'll put you back in the waiting room. Dirk, you get bumped up. What's up, Dirk?
Hey, that was a disaster. But
yeah,
this is one of the games I thought Keon Ellis was particularly ineffective tonight. What do you attribute that to?
You know, Keon just couldn't get it going. I think he had a tough matchup, number one, defensively. It kind of reminded you of the Aaron Gordon Denver game when DeMar was guarding Aaron Gordon and they just kept lobbing the ball over the top. But Keon was doing his job. He was fronting Wagner and nobody was helping him out. It was the story of the game to me. Just guys not helping, guys being a step late. I don't want to say guys not caring, but if you go back and watch that game, there's plenty of examples that make you scratch your head and want to ask that question, Dirt.
Yeah, I don't recall DeMar DeRozan playing defense, so I have no recollection of what you're talking about. But Keegan Murray had negative 35 tonight. Keon Ellis in 18 minutes, a -3, despite how ineffective. I don't know how we...
Due to the minutes, he only got
18 minutes. I mean, if Carter's out, that just is a disaster of a draft pick. But I don't know. Just this team just drafts the opposite of us. You know, they took the entirely different philosophy of just draft length and size, and it's amazing that they're the number one defensive team and they have that record. They do, injuries aside, but it's crazy that their offense can get going against us, but no one else.
Yeah,
I'm just fascinated by that.
We went through everything Orlando does well in the pregame, and we said everything that you can't do if you're Sacramento. And let me remind you, and I heard on the telecast, Orlando, and we said it on the pregame too, worst shooting team in the NBA from beyond the arc. The worst. They have now hit you for 16 and 18 threes. You've given up 34 three-pointers to the Orlando Magic in 2 games this year. It's unexplainable. And tonight it was effort-based.
You know, I think Sacramento sees a team that is bad at three-point shooting and goes, okay, we're going to play zone. You know, we're going to slack back and protect the paint for some reason because they can't shoot. It's just baffling. I mean, we don't have the personnel to play good perimeter defense with Jake LaRavia out. I think that could take a different approach.
Yeah.
But I don't think Kings beat this team 99, out of 100 matchups, probably lose 99 times out of 100. Without De'Aaron Fox, like someone who can break down that defense, there's just no way that we can beat this team, in my opinion. But
the Kings played into the Magic's hands perfectly tonight. When you miss shots and you're not getting to the free throw line a ton, that's a problem. And Orlando already, who shoots the most free throws in the NBA, You send them or you put them in the penalty at 7:09 in the third quarter, and I understand the game was out of hand then, but you bring up a good point with Jake LaRavia out. I'm going to bring this up really quick since you are here talking about DeMar DeRozan and his defense. So let me give you just a quick recap of how we got to where we're at right now on the screen. Banchero was all the way at the top of the key. He comes driving straight down the middle of the lane. He beats Trey Lyles. DeMar's the help man. He's right there. DeMar is right there to help everybody. Let me show you where DeMar DeRozan ends up. This is where DeMar DeRozan ends up. It's almost not believable. How do you end up in that angle? Behind him. DeMar sidestepped him. DeMar just olayed it. Just like we saw Sabonis 4 or 5 feet out contesting a three-pointer. These guys were not locked in tonight for whatever reason.
You know, and at least DeMar had it going offensively. I think we come to expect that. He's an old man. He doesn't want to risk injury. He's going to save everything he's got for whatever playoff push he's going to have. Zach LaVine, particularly bad tonight.
Awful.
Several aspects. Again,
you got to worry about him. He only gets 8 shot attempts tonight. He nearly has as many turnovers as shot attempts. In fact, he had more turnovers, 5, than he did made shots, 3.
I know that was. I just come to expect it. I mean, it was the Portland game was great. It looked like premier Zach LaVine. You were hoping we found a way to move forward, but I don't know. Malik was probably worse or equivalently bad. This was some of the worst basketball I've seen Malik Monk play all season.
Yes.
I don't know what to attribute it to.
Well, I mean, he's been out sick. He didn't play a ton of minutes the other night, although he did play well. The turnovers have still been there for Malik since De'Aaron left, but tonight it was just amplified.
Yep, and I don't give us much a shot against Indiana. They've been playing really well.
Right.
You can't play lackadaisical defense against them. I don't see a lot of wins coming, but let's get past Indiana and then see what we can have in front of us. So
for sure. Hey, Dirk, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Good job by Dirk. Yes, playing Orlando does not make
no sense.
Much sense, Todd. I get it. I understand. Want to show the chat some love too. King Circus, yes, indeed. Well, look, you can't blame the circus for tonight. This was the players, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Doug Christie has to say after the game, because we'll talk about the playoff picture. You are now tied with Dallas. You are now tied with Dallas. Now you have the tiebreaker, but you are tied with Dallas with 5 games left on this trip. 2 of the hardest games on this trip are going to be back-to-backs. And when it comes to Devin Carter, not that he was going to be the savior, that is one less point guard you have available if he's going to be out for any period of time. And if he is, what are the Kings going to do? What's that mean? Does that mean you are possibly looking at, well, you're definitely looking at more Markelle Fultz minutes. You're looking at increased minutes from Monk and Keon. Does that mean that Mason Jones might be coming to get some run? Remember, two-way players cannot play in the play-in or playoffs unless they are elevated to a full-time roster spot, which is why Isaac Jones was elevated to a full-time roster spot, and congratulations to him. You know, Progressive, the Kings, it wasn't a lazy three-point shooting offense. I have a hard time saying that because Progressive at the half, the Kings only had, let's see. Well, okay, 23. Oh, no, that was Orlando. Yeah, the Kings only had 8 three-point attempts. 9 in the first half, Progressive. They only had 9 three-point attempts. Look at the shot attempts for them tonight. Very low. It was just a lazy, unenergetic, uninspired performance. Everything was going away from the basket rather to the basket. And so when things get physical, you can't expect to get those calls. We've had that conversation so many times on this show. let's see. Donald says he's got it figured out. So, Donald, what's going on tonight? Donald, I looked past the DM. My man, you're like, I got it figured out. My audio. I come back to you. Donald, come on. All right, Donald, hang in there. Maybe I will give you a third try. Will, what's going on tonight?
Hey, so I think I've got it figured out actually. So I really didn't like DeMontis's performance today. And I do think that like I basically saw him post up a lot more than usual, and I don't really love him as a post up player. I like him more as an offensive hub. And I think that Keon starting is good, but I guess I'm just a believer in the Monk Sabonis pick and roll a lot more than the DeMar DeRozan ISO game. I feel like before Fox got traded, you brought up a lot like how Fox doesn't really make Sabonis better, and Monk does. And I think it's the same with DeMar, where DeMar doesn't really make Sabonis better, but Monk still does. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thought. Where I like the change, but I really would prefer um, DeMar coming off the bench because you were just saying that the Kings were unenergetic and lazy. And I do think because, like you said, DeMar is an old man. He is
I
kind
did
of
not.
unenergetic and
Do
lazy.
not put words in my mouth. I did not ever call DeMar an old man. That has not come out of my mouth.
You just said that he was, you know, like didn't want to get injured.
No,
I guess that's what I was thinking.
the caller said that he wants to save himself and his body on a play like that. I said nothing about that. So I just showed the example of them playing the
fair.
Ole defense. And I don't want to,
That's
I don't
fair.
want to single out DeMar because it was everyone tonight. It was everybody. So, but I get it.
I don't either. I just like the Monk Sabonis pick and roll, and I think that Sabonis plays a lot better with Monk in the starting lineup than with DeMar. That's basically my point. But I do think that the Kings should still start Keon, and if the offense and the pick and roll isn't working, then bring DeMar on. He'll be aggressive. He'll get his points. But yeah, that's just basically kind of my point.
Appreciate you, Will.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling and taking the time. DeMar DeRozan's not coming off the bench on this team. I think that's a bigger discussion. We had it on the pregame show a little bit. I think DeMar DeRozan would be open to coming off the bench for a contender, not the Kings, not this Kings. This is not what DeMar DeRozan signed up for. And I'm not going to put that solely on the back of De'Aaron Fox because he helped recruit him. That also goes to ownership. That goes from top down. So there's no reason to really kick around the future because we still have 8 games left in this season. But the Kings now move to 2 games under 500 on the road. Also 2 games under 500 on the road. 2 games under 500 for the season. PK, man. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. PK, you know I love you. You know that sometimes you are our habitual line stepper.
No, he would step across the line.
But, dude.
Habitually. He's a habitual line stepper.
You got to realize, PK, when coaches usually talk about guarding 1 through 4, or I talk about guarding 1 through 4, that's on switches. PK. That doesn't mean on most nights that you line up Keon Ellis against a power forward. That is on cross matches and switches. I have to go back and watch the tape. What I saw live was Keon not getting help. Keon was executing the game plan to front. There was supposed to be help behind him. So I would not, you got to be careful, PK. You got to be careful with that stuff, man.
Hello?
It's not as simple and clean cut. is, oh, he can start on a 4. No, it's on switches. The best NBA teams in the league are able to switch 1 through 5. That's what the Clippers have been able to do. I don't have the fourth quarter stat sheet in front of me, but I've got the first 3 quarters. In 2 of the 3 quarters, the Kings were negative in their assist to turnover ratio. The second quarter, the Kings had 7 turnovers and 3 assists. The first quarter, the Kings had 3 assists and 4 turnovers. The only quarter that it was positive was the third quarter. +2. Incredible. Incredible stuff from your Kings, but not surprising. Not surprising. All right, Donald, going to give you one more try. You ready? Here we go. Donald, you there? I'm going to say his name. Will he appear? Donald.
Say his name and he appears.
All right. No Donald. Tay will be there, though. What's up, Tay?
Hey, Ryno. First of all, shout out to Caleb Houston making 6 out of 7 threes. He might have just revived his NBA career. Yeah. I didn't know who this guy was until tonight because role players have career games against Kings. So shout out to Houston. Good for him. And in all seriousness, I think the 2 losses against Magic this season remind me of the way that the Kings lost to Pelicans 6 times last year. They just struggle against teams that have long guys, physical and scrappy players. I think to a certain extent to address that, I think Monty brought JV and Laravia. I know Laravia didn't play tonight. I'm not saying they would have won if he played, but what's up with JV getting only 11 minutes and in the last couple games he hasn't been getting much of a run? Do you think Doug has maybe seeing his limitations in terms of slow feet and getting into foul trouble and thus playing him less? Because I would think against a long and physical team like Magic, you might want to explore some big lineups.
I don't know what Doug's thinking. No, and I think JV has played very well since coming here. And I mean, every player is going to have a limitation or two, but the physicality, like if you're trying to match physicality, that's a guy that I want on the floor. And I think what Doug was, I'm speculating because I can't get in Doug's head, but if you look at the Magic being 27th in the NBA in pace, there's 2 things that you don't want to do. You don't want to foul and you want to play quick. JV sometimes fouls a little bit too much. That comes with the territory. It comes with the physicality. And if you want to play quick, then you're going to go probably smaller than JV, although JV can run the floor fairly well. I think the question becomes more of Doug Christie's comments the other day where he says, we need an offensive team, we need a defensive team, and then we need a combination of both. And so on a night like tonight, when the Kings are in the third quarter and the Magic hit their 3rd triple in a row to go up by a game-high 30 points, to not see a timeout, to not see a change in the defense. The Kings went to the zone defense for the first time in this game with 1 minute left in the second quarter. It was almost like a concession. I mean, the only time that we saw Doug really make that shift was when he pulled the McFire alarm and brought McDermott in. That's really what it was. So I do give him credit, though, Tay, for taking the starters out of the game early. That is a good thing. I'm good with that.
Yes, I think he conceded as he was supposed to. So that was I guess, a nice change. So thanks, Ryno.
Hey, appreciate you, Tay. Good stuff from Tay. Calling the show. Again, the Kings losers tonight, 121-91. If you would like to join in on the action on the phones, would love to have you. All you got to do is click the link that I just put in to the chat. Would you call this a rare performance? I mean, it's got to be one of the Kings' worst performances of the season. They caught Orlando the first time coming off of the Kings. It was their first game back from a long road trip. They catch Orlando first game of a long road trip now on the road. There's nothing really. The telecast said jet lag. That's a joke. I asked Jerry Reynolds about that. Now, the early start, maybe. That's different. But all those things, like all these factors about the Kings having to travel across country, having to start early, none of those factors would make you play with that little effort. That was just, it was befuddling. It was pathetic. And this is coming from somebody that's done every post-game show this year for this team. This is coming from most of you who have watched all of these games, who have been in here, and thank you for being here on If You Don't Like That with us and sharing the post-game with us. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. We would greatly appreciate it. And we know that you would probably benefit from it as well, because we've got a ton of content besides our post-game shows that are on the channel. Great interviews with some names that you definitely know, with Grant, and the King's Court Daily as well, our weekly roundtable with Jerry Reynolds. So go check that out if you haven't already. But man, I don't know really where to go on this one. Let's go to Andre. Andre, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Ryno?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, so I was doing good until I watched the Kings game. It's just like a disappointment. It looks like our team just quit. Like we don't even give effort playing defense. We're just out there to check the 48 minutes.
Yeah, they could have called it early, done a running clock. I'm sure Doug Christie would have been in favor of that.
Yeah, and then as far as Zach LaVine, I was liking how he looks before we got LaVine, but now we have LaVine. It just feels like the system's not working with our offensive flow. We're just more careless and turn the ball over more with LaVine playing.
Here's the confusing part for me with LaVine. LaVine and Fox are different players, but in a sense, they're very similar in what they take up within an offense.
Yeah,
and
they both want the ball.
And to me, Fox, it just, if you were going to play a team concept of basketball, it wasn't going to work with Fox, and you didn't have a true point guard. And so now, in a way, you have actually, and we can say it through Zach's stint here in Sacramento, you have downgraded for the same guy. It's like you've gone from an iPhone 8 to an iPhone 7 because at least Fox could get to the hoop. At least Fox, when his finger was healthy, wasn't turning the ball over nearly as much as Zach LaVine. So I just don't know why the Kings put themselves in that same position when you saw your group of players play so well without Fox. And the minute showed it, but then you bring in a similar player.
Yeah, and ownership plays a factor. We're out here saying how it was good that Wes Wilcox with our fan base wasn't happy with him, but who knows if we're able to replace Wilcox with a better person as our front office guy.
Well, Monty still has a job. Doug is still the interim coach. I don't want to talk about replacing all of them yet until there's something that happens. But definitely a lot of reason to believe things could be shaken up in the offseason.
Yeah, and you think Devin, it's still too early to think if Devin Carter was a bust as a draft pick?
Way too early. Yes.
Okay.
If Devin would have had a full summer and he played summer league, it would still be too early to judge that 100%. So
yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Andre.
That's what I needed.
Appreciate you. The problem, it's not Devin's fault. Devin didn't draft the Kings. The Kings drafted Devin, and Devin falls into that same category of guard that's not a true point guard, that is not a true shooting guard. Like, the Kings are so rich in that position, in that area of the roster. They have so many different players that do that. It's going to be a while. Now, you can look at a Dalton Connect. You can look at a Jalen Wells, which, by the way, Jalen Wells for a second-round pick, that's completely credit to scouting, by the way. I'm sure they had a tick on him, but you weren't expecting what you were getting out of Jalen Wells. And I know Taylor Jenkins did a good job developing that young man, as long with Zach Edey thus far, yet he is out of a job. But the fit is the question. It's not Devin. It's the fit. Why did Monty keep going to that well? And ignore the point guard position for as long as he has. Donald, thanks for the super chat. Wanted to ask you, do teams really tank on purpose? Yeah, Dallas. Dallas did it a couple of years ago. Dallas did it the year the Kings made the playoffs. They got fined like $1 million. Absolutely. It's hard to believe that teams lose on purpose. Yeah. Well, look, it's very difficult to tell if you're trying to lose on purpose. Now, Portland, for instance, the last game of the season last year for the Kings, the game plan for Portland from Chauncey Billups was just shoot threes. Shoot as many as you can. So that is left up into interpretation. Are you trying to lose or not? But with rest management, with all those factors that come into play, ambiguity around injuries, it's very hard to determine and point to a team and say, you for sure are trying to lose. But the NBA felt they had enough to do that with Dallas. One thing that I can point to for sure, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that you are not going to lose, that is when you go to Bennett's. 3 locations here in the greater Sacramento area. The West Side Grill in Rockland, their newest location. Love it. And that's what I love about all the locations. Same great menu, different vibes. Rockland, really cool one too. In fact, that's where Grant and I did the fundraiser, got our head shaved, raised 16,000 plus for charity. That was a lot of fun. And then Howe and Fair Oaks, go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Check out their full menu of prime cuts of seafood and steak. Happy hour 2 to 6 every single day. One of my favorites, my family's favorites, weekend brunch, all 3 locations, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Prime rib on the weekends. Should I keep going? If you go to bennettsrestaurants.com, you can see all that and more. You can make reservations. You can put your orders in to go. And you can also buy gift cards right there on the spot. PK. Wasn't Wolfie supposed to get a gift card? PK? But you worked out some backdoor deal with him, PK?
No, he step across the line. Habitually. He's a habitual line stepper.
PK? Maybe go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Get that digital gift card for Wolfie or somebody in the chat. But seriously, Mother's Day, not too soon to start thinking about that. So make sure that you get there, make a reservation. You don't want to be without one on Mother's Day. New York Prime right there in the bottom right corner. One of my favorite, the redfish, so good too. A cut of fish or a type of fish you don't usually see in this area. It's not red like Grant's hair. It's blackened and it comes with some great spinach and to die for. What I'm saying, get to bennettsrestaurants.com. Guarantee you will love it. Prime cuts of seafood and steak. Huge thanks to Brian and the team over at Bennett's. Make sure also when you go in, let them know that you heard about them here on the channel. If you don't like that, they always love getting that feedback, and let us know when you go in. We will make sure to pass that along to Brian and Margot and everybody else. Looking through the chats, the Kings are cooked. They could be. I mean, this whole idea of tanking, it might happen by default. I am not suggesting it. Jerry Reynolds was not suggesting it. It could happen, though. A lot of fans are very anxious about this pick that is still floating over the Kings' head from the Kevin Huerter trade. They want something. Bennett has vegetarian options. PK. Look at you, PK, trying to work your way out of that. Keep going. Yeah, we're not going to go there. I'm reading through your comments right now. About a week or two away from Sabonis trade scenarios. Hey, if you're in the prime of your career, why would you not ask for clarification on what the future is, especially if you're in a destination that's being ran the way that the Kings organization reportedly is being ran? And also, here's the other thing. Your accomplishments on the floor are not being recognized because of the circus behind the scenes. Sabonis should have 2 more All-Star games. He doesn't. That's crazy. So I would ask for direction. It makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. You know, I'm trying. I am trying. Grant does them like none other, but I am definitely trying. And if you're the Kings, by the way, with Sabonis, you're not in the easiest position either when it comes to trading him. I just don't think, Jalen Wells would have been great. But look, that's like an Isaiah Thomas, the last pick of the draft. One of those guys develops. Maybe you can see that in them. Maybe you can't. But Jalen Wells would have been a great look on this Kings team. But back to the point with Sabonis, if you want to look at what the Kings are working with this summer, we can. The Sabonis contract is not necessarily the bad one. It's the Zach LaVine contract that's the bad one. So you got to do everything you can. If you were going to do a balance sheet right now for the Kings and say, is this contract an asset or a liability based on the way the player is playing? I think LaVine is under the liability side. Sabonis still is an asset, but I don't know. I think De'Aaron Fox's value, because De'Aaron is a little bit more universal, is higher than Domantas Sabonis's value. Sabonis brings it every night, and that's the big difference. Whether he's asking to be traded or not, whether he got along with Coach Brown or not, you never knew it through his play. De'Aaron, you did, but back to Sabonis and his value, he's kind of a niche player. He's one of 3 that play a certain style. Jokic, him, and Şengün in order, I would say. But he's smaller than both of those guys. So you either need to have a system that works perfectly for Sabonis, or you've got to be able to work your system to Sabonis like you've seen the Kings try to do. Greg Anthony said it beautifully when they did the Thunder game on national TV. He said the problem is your star player is not a scorer, basically. He does not attract the attention of the defense the way that many of your traditional stars in the NBA do, which kind of changes the formula on how teams guard the Kings, which has a ripple effect. So, and it's not just Sabonis, y'all. If we're going to start talking about people wanting out or trades, you got to start thinking about Keon Ellis. He's set to make 2.3 next year. He's going into a contract year next year. And then we've got the Keegan Murray stuff hanging over your head. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to be asking for some clarification as this season goes along. Nonetheless, the Kings lose this one. These standings are not necessarily completely up to date because games are still going on. that is what the standings looked like coming in. I believe the Kings are updated, though, now at 2 games under 500. So Dallas is yet to play tonight. So take that into account. Dallas is in Chicago. They'll be tipping off here in a little bit. So the Kings will be scoreboard watching. The Kings do have the tiebreaker with Dallas. Phoenix right now, a game behind the Kings and the Mavericks. Just a bad day to have a bad day if you were the Kings. I was expecting a lot more effort, seeing as there were 9 games left in the season. I'm not going to say Monty put together a terrible squad. I think the Zach LaVine trade was Monty's Hail Mary. Because the Zach LaVine trade goes against everything that Monty McNair kind of kept to with his principles in managing a basketball team. The bad contracts, he didn't want them, he didn't have them. Yet you could make the counter argument that he had the fluidity, but he never used it at the right time at certain trade deadlines, maybe extending Sabonis early the year the Kings ran it back was not a great idea. Maybe that money should have been used somewhere else. Monty's issue in this team, it's not just Monty. It was Wes Wilcox. It's Vivek Ranadive. It's everybody on the basketball operations side to fail to see that you need a true point guard to go along with Domantas Sabonis. I just don't get it. That has been the biggest problem under Monty's time. Jay Money, thank you so much for the super chat question. Do you think the Kings hire Jenkins or keep Doug for next season? I don't want to go into hypotheticals, and thank you very much for the super chat. Always appreciated. We put those back into the channel so we can continue improving the product for you. I don't want to go into hypotheticals about who's going to be the next coach, and I don't want to fire somebody before they are, because although it has interim attached to it, Doug Christie is your head coach. Here's what I'll say about Taylor Jenkins. I think Taylor Jenkins, and we need to wait and see what the details are as they start to come out from Memphis. But I think Taylor Jenkins made the most out of a very difficult hand. Reports are he lost the locker room. Reports are that Grizzlies fans were not happy with how he handled Dylan Brooks and his shot attempts. Also, that they might not host a home playoff series this year. A few of those things are small potatoes to me. Now, if you lose the locker room, you lose the locker room. That's tough to overcome. But to fire a guy that close to the playoffs, it's a little bit unprecedented. Now, Taylor in Sacramento, unless something comes out from Memphis that is just crazy, and I know Memphis's GM has come out and said it was solely his decision to fire Taylor Jenkins. Unless something crazy comes out, I don't see him being the coach of the Kings. I think he's going to have much better options at hand. And if he doesn't have better options at hand by the time this hiring cycle after the season is done, I think he waits it out. I think there is going to be a big market for Taylor Jenkins. Now, the Kings might come over the top. They like him that much with a big offer that he can't refuse. But I think the market is going to be too good. Why would Taylor Jenkins want to come to a Sacramento team that's in basketball purgatory, that is a circus right now from the top down, with too many chefs in the kitchen? I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. As we look at the rest of the schedule, again, the Kings will be in Indiana on Monday. We will have full coverage of that for you. Also, Kings Court, 2 o'clock on Monday. Make sure that you come say hi on the channel. Fun show. But pregame will start at 3:15 on Monday. Then the Kings head to Washington and Charlotte. Those hands down have to be wins. Those have to be wins. The Kings cannot lose those games. And that's what scares me about the effort that you saw tonight. And then you go into the most difficult stretch of this road trip. It's back-to-back Cleveland, who you know has a short memory of what the Kings did to them just a couple of weeks ago. And then Detroit. Those are going to be tough games. And then you come home to Denver, the Clippers. And here's the thing. A Phoenix game that very well could decide the 10 spot. Phoenix's schedule is ugly coming home, but that could decide the 10 spot for the play-in. So we will see indeed. We've got college basketball going. I know that. I respect that. So what available decent GMs? See, again, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the question. I'm not going to speculate on GM candidates when the Kings have a general manager. I'm just not going to do it. But what I will say, and what Grant has said, and I agree with him, is if a lot of the reports that have been coming out are true, 3 more victories for the Kings. What's that put them at? Under 40? Man. What I will say is if the reports are true of what's going on in this organization, and I have personally talked to people that are connected and close to the team and know enough to know that things are not right. Okay. What you have heard in terms of Sam Amick's article, it's not far off base. It's consistent with what a lot of people are hearing. I think it very much limits your pool of candidates to guys that are either going to want a paycheck or guys that are not super desirable. Because if you're an up-and-coming executive coach, why would you want to come in and deal with that situation? To not have autonomy. I mean, we've seen Luke Laux, and I'm not going to knock Luke for leaving for his dream job, which I can't assume it's his dream job, but most basketball players, one of their dreams would be to coach their alma mater. He got that chance with Florida State. He leaves, and then Wes Wilcox takes off as well during the season. It's a sign that people are jumping off the ship, and the Kings are trying to stay buoyant this season. So we will see. Any last callers? This is your last chance, or else we're going to wrap this one up because not much more to talk about other than to remind you that we are back on Monday again for the Kings and the Indiana Pacers. Pacers, as one of the callers said, I think it was Dirk, have been playing good basketball. They were beat at the buzzer by LeBron just a few nights ago. So you know that they are going to be wanting the Kings for sure. I agree. I agree. No, you guys are talking dinner. Yeah, it's definitely time to get out of here. If we're talking dinner, then it's time to get out of here. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Lord. Elizabeth, I'm going down, Elizabeth. Oh, Lord. You big dummy.
We're going down in a bad way. At least you were tonight. Sacramento Kings absolutely destroyed for the second time this year by the Magic. And no excuses. This was not the Magic. This was the Kings. Lack of attention to detail. Lack of effort. Didn't get to 50-50 balls. Got out of the way instead of making a play. But here's the good news. You get another crack at it on Monday, and we will be here for it. Thanks for choosing us today for your post-game show. Grant will be back Monday as well. Uh-oh, we got one last one. Let's do it. Bryce. What's up, Bryce?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I joining very late, just got off work.
Yeah, for sure.
Caught the second half of the game, and let me know if I'm being too loud because last time I called, I was a little loud.
No, you're perfect right now, Bryce.
Awesome. So I caught the second half, and I just have a feeling that the Kings they've lost hope, and I just want your thoughts.
So you're not too loud, but
Yeah, sorry, my cat in the background just won't stop.
That's so funny.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. We needed the laugh. So repeat your question because all I heard was meow.
I just feel like the Kings have lost hope, and like they don't see like this season turn. I don't think they believe that they can win a playoff series, even if they make the playoffs.
I don't. So I don't take from today's game that the Kings have lost hope. I don't. I think the Kings know. Doug Christie knows that he is in a very difficult position. I said this a couple shows ago that with this roster, even if you brought in the best of coaches, this is a highly, highly difficult and technical thing to work out. And I think where it really starts is how do you get this Zach LaVine thing figured out? Because we've now seen 2 weeks of basketball from him that have been subpar. He missed a game for personal reasons, but the Zach LaVine that I knew of before he came to Sacramento, the Zach LaVine that was in the dunk contest, the Zach LaVine that has all that swag, that Zach LaVine never took only 6 shots a game or only 8 shots a game. And so Doug Christie has got to find a way to get him going while also keeping this thing balanced and getting other guys going. So hope isn't lost for me, but I could see where you think it might be gone.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I used to love him on the Bulls, and even in Minnesota when I started watching him, he was always aggressive. Maybe the spacing's bad. I don't know. Who knows? They'll figure it out.
The spacing, it was weird. It appeared the Kings did not really try to do much of the same action that they did at all against Portland. And I get game plans can change game to game, but if something's not broke, don't fit, you don't need to fix it. And I'm of the opinion when Doug Christie took the job, he openly said he wants teams to have to adjust to the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not seeing that. So Doug has these non-negotiables. Effort's one of them. Well, it got negotiated today because it was not there.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking my call. I know I was late to the show.
No, you're good. Appreciate you, Bryce. Thanks for taking the time.
No worries.
All right, brother. Good job by Bryce. This is if you're a Kings Quarter, this is a big doghouse. We have like 7 different viewers that have dog behind their usernames. So to hear a cat up in the Kings Court and if you don't like that, a little bit different. Let's go back to the phones. We got another call. I'll stay as long as the calls are here. BJ, call back if you want, or we will get ready to take off and get out the door. Looking to see if we have any audio from Doug Christie after the game. Does not appear any audio is there. A lot of people not very happy with ownership. With what I'm looking at right now, some things making its way around social media that I'm sure you will see, just images, nothing newsworthy. But bad night for the Kings, 121-91, lost to Orlando. Kings down by 33-35 at some point. Just one of the worst showings of the season for the Kings. And by the way, if you're Doug Christie, this is not a game the cat should buy the Kings. There you go, horse. Well done. Well done. This is not a performance that you put the videotape in and you go play by play. You throw this tape out. These players know what they did wrong. These players know what needs to be fixed. This is where you light into them. We got 2 more calls. BJ, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me? I got my earbud in. I don't know if you could hear me
Yeah,
very
got you
well.
good.
Hey, thanks
You
for
have a
showing up.
you got a
Go
neck
ahead.
brace on? You good?
No, it's a. I'm at work. I'm running around the ER, so
Got it.
I'm supposed to wear a mask at the hospital. Hey, you know what? Thanks for showing up, my man. Thanks for showing out. I love you so much. I love this chat. Well, you know what? We're all in this together. Let's keep our heads up. And like that cat said, he sounded pretty sad. I think it's sad that Sabonis doesn't want to be around, and then he's probably thinking about Keegan wanting to jump ship too. So we should listen to that cat more often. And the thing about Doug, it kind of seems like he just says the right thing at the right time, and I can't blame him. But the Kings, man, it's a sad state of affairs, but it's so nice to get on here at work, a bunch of crazy stuff going on, but to hear the chat, read the chat, hear you guys, it puts a smile on my face. So I love you.
Good,
You
brother.
guys take care. I gotta hit it.
Appreciate you, BJ. Love you. Be safe.
Later, man. You too.
Good job by BJ. Appreciate him in the work that he does. Jay, what's going on tonight?
What's going on? How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So for the past 3 games, my mindset has kind of shifted, and I think that it's time that the fans kind of join the ship with me. I really value that first round pick that's on the brink of us getting it or not getting it. Now I know you said, "Oh, we don't need it," or that's what they think in the front office is we're forgetting about it. We're gonna give it up. No,
Well,
that's not how you run stuff. Well, yeah, they're trying to compete now, and they are looking at it like we're not going to have the pick because we're going to compete.
correct.
That's not the truth.
But Jay, they also said that they're looking at ways or they are negotiating, trying to find a way to get back in to the draft. I'm paraphrasing there. So,
Well, I'll tell you how. For the past 3 games, I've been rooting for the Kings to lose.
yeah,
You need to lose. Period. Now, I didn't want to see us I wanted to see us lose by 20 tonight. I think that the lead in the third quarter kind of got out of hand. No, I'm serious. You could ask my
what's
girlfriend.
the difference between 20 and 30?
Well, it looks better. 20, come on. 30 is just like an embarrassment. 20 is not that bad in today's NBA, with late game free throws, whatever. But you get the point. It's time that we're gonna here's the thing. We've talked about the future and we bring this up all the time. Today, you gotta understand as a fan base that, well, maybe I'm gonna pretend you're Vivek. You have to understand this, Vivek. It's either you start and accept the reality or the reality is going to come and smack you in the face. So you're going to be forced to do a reset regardless. You've already lost your star player that you drafted, right? You lost those contractual powers that you have over them, is essentially. It's time for you to take a leap of faith. Now, if we get our draft pick, you're looking at the 13th, 14th pick, maybe. And that's a maybe because that's a lottery. Who knows? This pick might be 8, 7. And the way this March Madness is going, you have a lot of players that were anticipated to go higher in the draft that may drop a little bit, you know? My point is we need to get younger, right? And we need to, for example, BJ said Keegan might want to jump ship. That's not happening because I drafted him and he's younger. So I would make sure he doesn't jump ship. But a guy, and we've talked about this before, that you have to consider what DeMar is going to do in the summer, right? And number 2, what Sabonis is going to do, because you have to have a minimum. You'll get charged for not meeting the minimum salary. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's minimum roster charges.
Well, yeah, the Kings they're going to fill out. It just doesn't. You don't know how they're going to fill out.
My thing is, I've told you this already before in the past. I'm not paying you $45 million if you can't give me 30 points on any given night. Now, I understand Sabonis is a guy, double machine, 18 points, 12 rebounds. Cool, I could fill in the 12 rebounds, but I need you to be an offensive threat, like you can go, like, especially now with Fox gone. So I'm looking at moving off of Sabonis and moving off of these guys, these older guys off the team, keeping Keegan, keeping Keon, keeping Devin. You can keep a Levine because you do need to sell some tickets and have some excitement, right? And you, like I said, you do need to meet that minimum roster charge. Plus, you're probably not going to be able to move off of him, and you won't get as much as for Zach as you would for Sabonis. And Monk potentially is on the table. He has a great contract, but knowing that, what would teams be willing to give up for him? Are they a sixth man away from competing, right? So all these decisions I've been thinking about for a long time. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
But I come on to say we need that pick. It's time that we go a different direction. Chalk up the season, get your pick back, restart, reset, and that's how we made the playoffs and to begin with. We drafted De'Aaron Fox. And it might have took a while to get to the playoffs, but normally that's what happens. You get these guys and you see the Rockets, you see the Thunder. This is what teams do. I mean, you see the Spurs. They're going to lap us next year. The Pelicans, they're going to lap us next year. Like they were hurt. They lost a lot of their players, but these teams are going to be better than us next year. And it's time to start thinking about the regression of a guy like DeMar. Domas ain't going to give you 30. It's the truth, in my opinion. Now, I don't know how you feel about that. If you want to give a quick take on that. And then also, as much as I hate any team that lives in Tennessee, Taylor Jenkins in a young core, picking up draft picks and stuff like that, may turn this franchise around. That's something to consider. So if you want to give your 2 quick thoughts on that, and then I'll hop out. Or I can hop out now. It's up to you.
No, so first off, I like Taylor Jenkins a lot. I just think that he's going to have better options.
Well, of course. Anybody would. Shit,
yeah.
I do. You do.
Yeah, I just think it would take a lot. And again, I don't want to replace Doug, even though he's the interim coach right now.
Yeah, it would be an off-season thing. Let Doug play out.
No. But I'm saying I don't even want to talk about it. He's your coach right now. You know what I mean? I don't want to speculate on what they're going to do with him. I want to give him that respect. You're echoing for the most part. You are pretty much right where I am at with this, because if you're going to do a rebuild, there's one thing that has always been, whether the Kings are good, whether the Kings are bad, as long as the effort is there and you have those certain players that are going to give you 0 to 100 on most nights, this fan base will be here for it.
Exactly.
Now, Portland is a different situation. I think they are ahead of schedule with their rebuild because they got lucky. The guy they wanted in Klingon fell in the draft. That was a guy they wanted before he had even played his senior year at UConn. So their situation has worked out perfectly. I think Scoot has grown a little bit more. Chauncey has done a good job there.
Yeah. That's what we kind of need to start doing.
But where I'm at is, and I've kind of been trying to make this argument and I haven't articulated it well over the last couple days. I think you have a couple of young upstart tech stocks that you need to kind of push more of your money into, rather than your more established stocks that are going to be for your 401k, your IRA.
Yeah, I get
that are going to give
totally
you 4.5%, 5%. Because I think those younger guys, like your Keons, your Keegans, we know the way they play basketball. Let's say Malik Monk is here. I think you
keep Monk, and you're going to have to keep Levine because of the contract, and I think that's fine because he gives hope. We have a star, and then you have Malik, who's a fan favorite, and it's not expensive to keep him. Those two alone will sell tickets, and then you get the young guys excited and the fans excited for those young guys. I totally get what you're saying. Plus, they're going to develop. They're getting more play time. They're going to get more shots, and I get where I agree with you 100%. You used a great analogy.
And I think that's why you've seen a different Keegan Murray over the past 2 or 3 weeks. He has really, in his own way, done a silent takeover. He's not taking it anymore. He's taking more shots. He's speaking up against, the ball not moving. So those are the guys that I am really focused on. Now with Sabonis, I'm not going to treat him any different, but I am not going to be in a rush. If Sabonis' agent tomorrow says he wants out, okay, We're going to wait till we get the best trade possible for Sacramento.
That
We're not
too.
going to do what we did with Fox and
Yes,
do
thank
what's
you.
best for Fox
Thank you.
and not what's best for your fan base and your team.
Thank you.
So Fox is, look, Fox, I don't think he would have been a distraction after the deadline. If he was, then you just send him off for surgery. But Sabonis, through this entire thing, and it's documented that him and Coach Brown had friction, documented that it's not affected his play. So if he wants a trade, it's not going to affect his play. That's who he is. It's in his fabric. He's going to bring it every single night.
Can I ask you, just to
Yes.
put, and for the fans that are concerned about the Sabonis, like, oh my God, like he's the guy, he's going to have his jersey retired. Can I ask you, name me a couple big men who make $45 million on average per season that cannot give you 30 a night? I mean, you got Giannis, Jokic,
Embiid
when he's healthy. So we'll put an
No.
asterisk there, right?
Embiid because he ain't on the court.
Right. But
No, I know. I
those
get
guys,
that.
there's not very many big men that make that money. And then you look at Sabonis's production, and then you start wondering, is he worth Jokic money and Giannis money?
But Jay, okay. So Jay, the thing is, in a smaller market, you're going to overpay. So you have to understand
that's
that right
true.
away.
Yeah, that's true.
You're gonna overpay. The second thing is Sacramento decided clearly, like, I think we can connect these dots that they decided when they brought Sabonis in. Sabonis is our de facto point guard. We are running everything through Domantas Sabonis, which is why you never saw a true point guard. And my belief is you don't get the best out of Domantas Sabonis unless you have a true point guard with him because of what you said. No, he's not going to go get you 30 on his own every single night. It's just not the type of player he is. You put the right people around him, he's going to give you 25 and 19 most nights, and he's tough as hell. So,
And I'll give that to him for sure, 100%. Toughest guy I've known. Wants to play every game. Doesn't like taking rest games. He's a trooper. He's a soldier for 100%, and he has my respect. I don't want people to think I'm hating on him at all because I'm not. I respect what he's done. You know, he is a blue collar worker. If you can compare him to regular players.
Yeah, the one wild card with all of this is this CBA, and you're gonna. This is my opinion. We're gonna see more stars flipped more frequently at trade deadlines. You're going to see teams on shorter timelines that aren't in rebuilds trying to shake it up because you can only, unless it is your own free agent, you can only have so many of those guys on the roster.
Yes.
And to your point about Sabonis's money, to me, that's why I feel like he is more of like if you put every GM in the room in the NBA, you put all 30 of them in a room and said you can have two players that make 45 million or more. I don't know how many lists that Sabonis
would be
is
on there.
on because you have to build your system around him or he has to fit into that system. So what the Kings are going to have to navigate is what is that pay cut ultimately going to look like? Or can they, if that trade comes along where you can get fair value for Sabonis, go. Grant thinks you can get fair value. I don't.
Yeah, because of the system issue, like you said, it's going to be tough. Where does he fit? You know, I don't. Anyway, moral of the call is we got to get. I want to keep that pick, like very much so. And as much as it's like, oh yes, go the other team against the Kings, it's the truth. Like I want what's best in the long run for the organization, not short term instant gratification.
And that's why you better start that is why. And also credit to Gabriel Harris, credit to Quentin Crawford, credit to everybody working on the Stockton side of things. They have done an incredible job of developing talent in collaboration with the Kings talent development staff. Terry Taylor, man, they have done an awesome job with him this season. The problem with Terry is his size. Mike Brown talked about Terry in the offseason, or actually in the preseason when he was in camp. They've done a great job with IJ. So you got to keep that system rolling as well. And just hope that this thing comes together at some point and the Kings are able to bring the pieces that they need to the table to keep this thing competitive. So appreciate you, Jay. Good call. Really good call. Yeah, the Stockton, by the way, they should be hosting a playoff game. I talked to somebody in Stockton, somebody with the team yesterday. They're thinking the first week of April because they're waiting for the rest of the season to play out. So make sure you go down and support them. Very good, very fun product. They've done a great job with Mason Jones as well. So there are some bright spots there. So the Kings do have some hope. It's just what we've always talked about. What is the Kings' identity? The Kings still do not have a positive identity. They don't. And until you have an identity, you can't put a roster together. But I do think you have some pieces that can go towards an identity that this fan base can get behind, that this fan base, win or lose, will support. And I think those pieces, with more attention, with more polishing, with a little bit more burn, will slowly show you more and could turn this thing around, not on their own, but be parts of a proper turnaround. But all those things to be decided. What I do know, minus 22 tonight, Sabonis, minus 15 tonight, DeRozan, minus 35, Keegan Murray, minus 34, Zach LaVine, minus 3, Keon. He did not play very much. He had 4 fouls. Turnovers, incredible. Nothing good came from this game, including Devin Carter getting hurt. Chris Bitterman of the SAC-B reported just a few minutes ago that Devin Carter left the building in a sling, and it is a right shoulder injury. Do not want to speculate on what the injury would be. My guess is they will get him some imaging ASAP, and from there decide whether to send him back to Sacramento for treatment or keep him with the team. It looked like it was a non-contact injury. I will say this, Devin Carter has had surgery on that right shoulder before. It is not the same shoulder he had surgery on after the draft. He had surgery on his left shoulder. The right shoulder surgery came in high school. So we will keep our ear to the ground on that. Still no word from Doug Christie. So we're going to get out. Make sure that you watch the scoreboard tonight for the Bulls and the Dallas Mavericks. The Kings, again, now tied with Dallas in the standings. Dallas to play tonight against the Bulls, and the Kings do hold the tiebreaker with the Bulls. Phoenix 1 game behind them. And check this out. The Kings plus minus, which is a stat that we always say never lies about a basketball team. It is barely holding on. It's holding on by a string at plus 0.1. Plus 0.1. Throw the tape away. Get the guys in the right mindset. Look for a bounce back game on Monday. We'll be here for it. Make sure you join us beginning with the Kings Court, 2:00. Remember, all of Grant's shows can be downloaded at grantnapier.com, or you can go to Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can check those out, download them. Kings Court, you can download there as well. Subscribe to the channel. Please give us a thumbs up. We would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in here, especially after a game like this. Thank you. Your best fans in the NBA. Best and most knowledgeable. Appreciate each and every one of you. Go Kings. Light the beam. Until we meet again. Hopefully we are talking about a better, well, hopefully you have a safe weekend. And get to Bennett's. Don't forget to get to Bennett's. But we are talking about a better performance. I don't see how we're not talking about a better performance on Monday night against Indiana because the bar is so low. But your Kings now tied with the Mavericks in the standings, holding the tiebreaker, though, with Phoenix 1 game behind and only a 0.10 plus minus. For Grant, for all of our callers, for all of you in the chat, and for Jerry Reynolds at halftime, thank you. Make it a great rest of the night. Kings lose 121 to 191. So long.